Grand Rising, everyone. This is Ron. It is Saturday, January 17th, 2026, a little after 10 a.m. Let's get started. Barb did an awesome job last week talking about depression and suicide. And I think she's going to continue with that today, at least pick up where she wants to. But give this to Pastor first and see if he has any questions or something he wants to give us before we go there. Pastor.
No, not really. I simply want us to, Barbara rather, to pull both of those together because based on the calls that I received, it was much needed. And that tells me that regardless of what we make decisions about teaching, it is the ancestors who actually guides what we teach. So I really am kind of anxious to pull this together because the times that we are living in, and maybe at the end we'll talk about that if you think is worthy. Okay. So Barbara, are you ready?
Grand Rising, everybody. I am.
Okay.
Okay. I have a contention before we really get into this. And my contention is that people who are disconnected or are not aware of who they are authentically, who are not aligned with their true self, are in a perpetual depression. You can call it low grade, you can call it whatever you want. But that's my contention. That this physicality is designed for us to stay in that state, and it offers certain things that push us deeper into that funk, that depression. Any thoughts on my contention?
I love your contention. I agree with you wholeheartedly. As you were saying that the first when you said what your contention is, my mind began to think back to how we as a people have lived and live even to this day without regard to where we are financially or otherwise. The system itself, um, as you said, was created to keep us in a state of depression because you don't know what's going to happen next. And to add to that, Barbara Jean, if I may,
You may.
we as a people, we started in a state of depression because when things were being forced upon us, we kept our children from, or we taught them rather, to obey the master because we did not want them to suffer as we were suffering. And mom is going to protect her boy from being raped or murdered as best she can. And if you follow that all the way through, what we were learning and being taught was survival tactics. And knowing what could come to us at any moment or our children would keep you in a state of depression because you never knew what the next minute was going to bring. And we perfected those survival tactics. And now we have begun to call them something else. We identify them differently. We don't call them survival tactics anymore. We talk about them in terms of wanting equality. We talk about them in terms of desiring to have better jobs. We identify it in so many different ways, but every way that we identify them, it is still the same thing it was in the beginning: tactics to survive. And now that we are at this space, it is time for us to abandon the survival tactics and start living. And I do believe that this discussion that you've led on depression and suicide has given us the energy or the resources necessary for us to move ourselves from just surviving to living by embracing the reality of depression as a motivator rather than a force of destruction. Thank you.
Thank you. Is it any wonder then, based on what you just said, that one of the reasons of depression, one of the things we say is that it's a misalignment, a suppression, or a forgotten, or something that's forgotten. All of these things were bled into the system, if you will, as a means to protect us on the one hand in this physicality. But on the other hand, there's a spiritual toll that can be taken as a result of all of the things that we've had to do to survive.
Yes.
So what we're saying is we don't have to stay there. The depression has this period. I mean, another contention is this period where we're on the sidelines watching things unfold is a way for us to begin, to continue that awakening process of knowing who we are. And so it's like seeing oppression from another perspective and reminding us, yeah, that's what we went through. I looked at several things. I looked at depression, which is to make somebody feel just hopeless, utterly dispirited. And I use that word dispirited, without spirit, utterly dispirited or rejected. On the other hand, oppression is to keep someone in a subservient kind of hardship. It's to, especially by unjust means or unjust authority, unjust exercise of authority. So we've been oppressed in our lives. We're depressed now. And the key is expression. The key is getting those thoughts out, getting those feelings out, facing those feelings, and processing those feelings spiritually, so that we become who we are. So from oppression to oppression to depression, depression can allow us and help us through awakening, express, be who we are. So,
we've just a quick thought, though. We've also been suppressed because we've been distracted from becoming who we are.
You're right. That's another one of those presses. And each one of those presses seem to weigh us down, don't they? Except the express, which is to get something out. Okay, thank you. Uh, so, what we've been talking about, depression is a form of a shadow work that needs to be done. We've talked about shadow work in the past. The shadow work is facing your feelings and your emotions, or facing whatever makes you feel guilty, unworthy, hopeless, unloved, helpless, whatever. It's coming to terms with that. That's the shadow work. The shadow work is overcoming those feelings of oppression, suppression, depression. All of that is shadow work, because it has to be done in order for us to be able to express in the now who we are. So these are ways, overcoming that shadow work and doing the shadow work helps us become aligned again, helps us not be oppressed and suppressed again, but helps us to remember. That's the key word, to remember who we really are. Not to just bring up those things that have been buried in us for one reason or another, through griefs and through rages and through burdens that we've undertaken. Not to keep those things buried anymore, but we gotta resurrect those things and face them, come to terms with them as part of our being, and then say, okay, embrace that. That was part of who I was, but now I don't need that anymore, and let it go. Let it go. So, we got to remember that, we in the past we've asked our quote unquote God patience. We've asked for courage. We've asked for love. We've asked for all of these things, and every single time we've been given opportunities to coincide with that. In other words, if we ask for patience, we've been given lessons that teach us to wait, and we might not have liked it. We might not have. There might have been jobs that we weren't promoted, or we weren't seen as worthy. But those were the lessons that were part of the work, of the shadow work. Courage. We ask for courage, but we've been given circumstances that cause us to fear. Well, the issue of courage is overcoming the fear, is it not? All of these things that we've been given that are lessons for us. And so instead of allowing those lessons to further bury us, we need to open ourselves up to expressing that, okay, remember we talked about talking to ourselves about this, what we felt depressed about? Talk to ourselves, okay, what is the lesson in this? That's what this does. It allows us to, quote unquote, unbury those things that have been suppressed or buried within us, and to resurrect them, to bring them up, to face them, to acknowledge them, and then to say, okay, got that lesson, and let it go. When I say let it go, even the words let it go implies a freeing, an unweighting of ourselves, of a feeling of not being as heavy. Again, remember, depression is designed to keep us separated from our authentic self, from us, from the real us, from who we really are. And just like anything that tries to do that, depression is just another one of those things. But we have to remember, we don't have any lack. We are enough. We feel guilty, unworthy, hopeless. We are enough. All of those things, bring them up and let them go. We are enough. Depression can make you feel like a turtle carrying the load of its shell. and it's like carrying the heavy burden of the shell of this body. The difference is the turtle was designed that way. We are not designed that way. We are light beings. We are designed, we are spirit. And so a spirit that resonates and vibrates at a higher frequency than the weight of this shell of a body that we carry around like a turtle. The shell of the body, if we allow that to be our reality, that's part of the heaviness. That's part of the feeling of tiredness, the feeling of weightedness, being weighted down. But we have to remember that's not who we are. We are light beings. We are spirit beings. That's not who we are. And that's part of the letting go of all of those things that separate us from being aware of who we really are. We are not.
Go ahead.
Beth.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
We're not guiltiness personified. We're not hopelessness personified. That is not who we are. So face it. Bring it up in your meditations. If you're feeling some of that, just allow it. Just uncover it in your meditation, and just sit with it and allow and face it, and just ask, what's my lesson? What's my lesson? Because I'm ready to move on. Pastor?
Yes. What I'm hearing also in what you're saying is the efforts that we have put in to conform to this world that we live in, this environment, has kept us in a state of depression. So rather than be conformed to this world, we are to be transformed into who we're supposed to be by the renewing of our mind. And the renewal of our mind helps us to move out of a state of depression and begin to search for who we really are, as opposed to embracing who we've been told we are. It's several places where the scriptures talk about renewing your mind. It talks about the inward man is renewed day by day. What does that mean? The more you begin to renew your mind, the more you begin to see the truth of what has kept us in bondage. We call it bondage, but we can also call it depression, a state of depression. And it is the spiritual essence of who we are that actually instigates this desire for a renewed mind, which means that spiritually, you have always been who you are, but it is your mind that has convinced you that you're something different. So it's simply saying, change the way you think. And when you change the way you think, you will begin to see, your eye will begin to open. And the more you walk in what you're being shown, the more apt you are to separating yourself from this state of depression. At the very least, recognizing it for what it is. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Other thoughts right now?
I guess Pastor said kind of what I was thinking, because a while back you mentioned being hopeless, and when you said that, I got to thinking about your imagination, because depression kicks your imagination into overdrive, and you do see things that aren't true about yourself or about your future or about who you are. And so that just ties into what you guys just said. The renewing of your mind is ridding yourself of all of that, reminding yourself of who you are, because you can talk yourself into being enlightenment, and you can also talk yourself into a deep pit that is very hard to get out of. So,
Exactly. Exactly. If you can image yourself, that's what imagination is, creating an image from mind. If you can image yourself into being depressed, into being hopeless, why not, because we know who we are, image ourselves into being who we are, into being, into understanding and saying, I have no lack. That's not who I am. I am enough. So, and it sounds so simple, but and really not. It really isn't until it is. And I don't know if that resonates or not, but it's like carrying a heavy wagon up a hill and you're pulling it yourself. But it's not. It's only at the point where you understand that, wow, this thing is motorized. I don't have to pull this heavy load. I can just push this button and it just and just guide it, and it just goes by itself. It's like we've been trained and for so long to live this depressive lifestyle, to live within the bondage of this depression, that we don't have the chains anymore. We don't need them anymore because we keep ourselves there automatically. But just like we can keep ourselves there through our meditation practices, through our shadow work, through our spiritual practices, we can teach ourselves, open ourselves up to being taught by the ancestors, by spirit, by that's not who we are. So you know, it's a choice. That's why even the Bible talks about choosing life that you might live. Choose. That speaks to the very creativeness of our being. We choose what we do, one way or the other. But sometimes we can feel so down and so depressed that we've lost sight of the fact that we can choose that. We've lost sight that we have options, and that depression doesn't have to be the only option. The very idea of creativity is that our potential is unlimited, and that's what we've got to open ourselves up to, that awareness. Be who we are. Now, in saying all of that, depression can be a crisis of the soul. And it can affect people in such a way that they lose sight and lose focus and react in the moment of that crisis of the soul. And in reacting in the moment to that crisis of the soul, they can unalive themselves. Even being on this journey and having been awakened to some extent, it can happen. Because we can take our focus off of the fact that we are enough for any circumstance, for any situation. We can take our focus off of the fact that we have no lack for anything. We can allow it, that soul crisis to overtake us at some point in time, and we unalive ourselves.
I'm thinking about a question that was sent to me last week in relationship to what you're saying, Barbara. That question being, if you don't believe in the Bible, then how do you know what's right and what's wrong? it's not that you don't believe in the Bible, you don't believe in how it was manipulated. And you understand that you've been lied to. When it talks about you being born in sin, you're in a world of entanglement, but you are not entangled at birth. Nobody has to teach you right from wrong. If you're a 1-year-old child and knocked the lamp off the table, who told you you did something wrong when nobody ever told you not to knock the lamp off the table? There is an inward knowing that is tainted by this world. And it is the world that teaches you how to be disingenuous with the people around you. It is this environment that we live in that teaches us to be brutal towards each other. And all of this is based upon what we see subconsciously as a method of survival. The manipulation of the scriptures it is what keeps us in this state of depression. When you're told in the church that you go be okay in the by and by, but you cannot expect the state that you live in this earth, to be any different than what it is. Another way to say that is this: as long as you live in this earth, you are going to live in a state of depression, because those who are maintaining that state of depression that you live in are the very ones who has told us what the Bible says as opposed to what it really says. So this constant prayer to get out of circumstances that never change. If prayer in the church was going to change anything, we would have been free from the day we learned what Christianity was. But rather than us being free, we have gone into a deeper state of bondage, a deeper state of depression. And we have perpetuated it because we were taught that our perpetuation of this is growth. We are moving out of where we were because our means of living has been altered in a positive way, when in essence it has not. We have been taught to maintain this state of being because we call it, the thing that we call progress is actually another way of saying we are in survival mode. The church keeps us in survival mode. And right now we are experiencing some things. And what we're experiencing is a recycling of everything that has happened in this earth from the first day that we came in contact with the Neanderthal. And now we're beginning to see that being freed from this survival mode is the only way that we are going to truly see who we are. Because as long as we perpetuate, I want my children to be better than I was, that means that I want my children to have more money and a bigger house than I had. I want them to live comfortably, instead of understanding that there is no comfort trying to be someone that you are not. There is no comfort when you are enslaved. Comfort is when you begin to realize who you are, regardless of what happened after that. Your life, the way you live, is more comfortable because you're no longer surviving, you're living. Thank you.
Thank you. As you talked, I thought about, a child that's ready to be born, and in that womb, and the child gets much more active as it grows in the womb. It's flipping and it's doing all kinds of punching and it's doing all kinds of things. And what happens if that is delayed? There is no way that it cannot occur. Our bodies are not designed such that we can hold a child who's alive and well beyond its time for a long time. It just doesn't do that. It's only when that child, when something happens, and perhaps the child is not viable anymore, and dies in the womb, that the body also rejects that fetus at some point in time as well. So what happens when the child is alive, at its peak, ready to be delivered, ready to be birthed? That's what this is all. That's what it reminds me of. That this depression can be the birth of who we are. We are ready to break out of all of this stuff, out of all of these isms and schisms and what we've been told, the baggage and the heaviness and the weightiness of what we've been told that we are, the unspoken grief, the unspoken rage that we've felt for different reasons of being oppressed and suppressed. We are ready to break out of this. So there's a choice. There's a choice. Are we ready to really face it? Are we ready to walk in the light of the light? Because that's who we are. And walk as the light? Because that's who we are. Or allow this soul crisis to say, oh, nah, not ready yet. I'm just feeling too, I'm just feeling too overwhelmed. And that's what happens, guys. That's not being punitive or judgmental. It just happens sometimes. The thing about it is, what about us who are beginning the journey and walking in the light? We feel like when someone unalives themselves, that what else could I have done? What did I miss? How could I have prevented this? How could I have helped? Maybe I'm not all I'm supposed to be if this happened in spite of my being present for that person. And you begin to this idea of woulda, coulda, shoulda, and you can't do that. You can't do that, because ultimately people have choices, as do you. And in spite of your best efforts, in spite of your best quote unquote counseling, and in spite of your best just being there for someone, they could make that decision. And you have to also let it go, because you understand that they are where they need to be at that point. They are in the best place that they could be at that point, surrounded by ancestors and spiritual beings and the community of the spirits, where they are held, where they are loved, where they are protected, where they are allowed to pull together the fractured parts of the soul that was so out of balance in the physical body and so misaligned that they felt that they needed to be free of it by unaliving themselves. We've got to understand that they are exactly where they need to be at that point. And so don't allow that to weigh us down. Don't allow us to, we shouldn't allow ourselves to be put back in a state of depression because we couldn't help somebody. They are where they need to be. And we are still where we need to be, with a purpose that we need to fulfill. And so don't take on the guilt and don't take on the weightiness. It's not who we are. We need to rest in knowing that they are healing, that they are being restored and rebalanced. Yes, Pastor.
You, I know it was no coincidence that you started with depression and rolled into suicide, because if you are aware of what depression is and you embrace the journey out of depression, then you're far less likely to unalive yourself. You're far less likely to die by suicide. Um, it is states of depression that leads to a desire to die by suicide. It is states of depression that has convinced us that there is no hope, or that
Right.
our believing there is no hope leads us to depression. But once we move from that depression, it's far less likely that you will die by suicide, even though you know there is no penalty, there's no punishment for dying by suicide or dying at your own hands. You don't want to die when you know who you are. You don't want to die when the
Exactly.
pain stops. So I'm done.
Thank you. Other. What are you thinking? Where are you? I do like in that Garden of Eden. Where are you? Where are you?
I was I was thinking about something when you were talking. I was thinking about, you made me think about the farmer goes out and he gets someone to go in his field in the morning, and he gets somebody again at noonday, and he gets somebody again in the evening, and he gives them all the same wages. And that came to me because getting in that pit of depression is very painful, but climbing out of it doesn't have to be as painful. Allow that higher self, or that part of you that can see your freedom, bring you out of it. You don't have to go through the same steps to get out of it that part that took you there. So the part that took you there can be totally exhausting, but getting out of it doesn't necessarily have to be, especially if you get help, or talk to someone about it and can see something, see a branch of yourself that is a lot stronger that can help pull you out. So I just thought of that when you were talking.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coming out of
Other
it,
thoughts?
uh, coming out of it. If you are being taught who you are and you're embracing it, coming out of depression actually strengthens your resolve to be who you were created to be. But you have to embrace who you were created to be first. I'm not saying that because you know you're God that you won't go into a state of depression, but I am saying that knowing who you are can make it a hell of a lot easier to get beyond that. Does that resonate?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole concept of medication is a bandage that covers the gunshot wound. It changes nothing. It just masks it. The only thing that changes it is you and how you process your mindset. That's why we need each other so desperately. If we are talking to each other about who we are and reminding each other who we are, then the medication, the more you become aware of who you are, the less you need that bandage. And I'm not telling you to get off your Zoloft tomorrow, but I am saying that the more you become aware of yourself and embrace it, the list, you will need medication. Thank you.
Thank you. Is this resonating out there? I would like to hear from others. Even if it's not resonating, maybe just to know that will help us understand where we need to go from here.
Hey everyone.
Good morning. Yeah, go ahead,
Morning,
Nick. Go ahead, Nick.
Oh, good morning. Oh,
Yeah, go.
oh,
I
sorry.
yield. Go ahead, Nick. I'll come back to you.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say it absolutely is, and I just wanted to add that it's the physical your physical makeup follows the mental, emotional, and spiritual makeup. So those experiences that have impressed themselves on us over the course of our lives that lead to us being depressed, and whatever other negative feelings we have, etc., are there because of in part, the way that those experiences have literally shaped physically how we have developed. And so when you, for example, meditation can be a great tool for dealing with depression and those kinds of things, because when you meditate and you go within and you examine yourself, you are literally sort of changing the thoughts that then correspond to the changes that will happen in you physically, and not just in your brain, but everywhere. So you can rebuild those pathways that have become sort of locked in, quote unquote, into a certain pattern of thinking and feeling. And it is kind of like you have to fight against yourself a little bit, although that's not exactly how I want to describe it. I would describe it like lifting weights or trying to get in shape. It takes effort and it hurts in the beginning, and you are changing the way that you are, that your physical and mental and emotional, but your physical body works. And it is also that with dealing with depression and any other those similar kinds of deep internal feelings. You have to break the pattern of that thinking at a very deep level and then rebuild your sense of self. And that is what you do when you begin to know yourself at a much more deep level. And as I said, meditation is one of the best tools for sort of changing those deeply held patterns of thinking and feeling that we have learned. But it is a similar concept to any other thing. It's little by little, bit by bit. As you practice, as you gain strength, as you begin to flex mental and spiritual muscles that you did not necessarily know you had, you can change those pathways that have become locked into a particular experience. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. The body is more than 70% water, and we've talked in the past about how changes in frequency and vibration affects water. Well, spiritual frequencies and vibrations affect the spiritual cells, and that's part of what you're talking about. It changes it. The vibrations, spiritual vibrations are at a higher decibel. They are not as dense, and so when we meditate, and those are the kinds of thoughts we have, thoughts of positivity. As we lift the weights, as you say, and we stop feeding ourselves the negativity and start feeding ourselves the words of positivity, the words of who I am, the words of who I really am, the authentic me. Those cells change and it affects the very physical body actually at some point. So thank you very much for that insight. GC, you were going to make a point?
George Robert Clark.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I just wanted to say I appreciate our session this morning. And when Pastor mentioned about be not conformed to this world, but being transformed by the renewing of our minds, from Romans 12:1, it really resonated with me in terms of learned hopelessness. And when I say learned hopelessness, is what society is putting out there in the macro in terms of the hopelessness of what we see that's going on, in our country. But more importantly, as Nick said, in terms of meditation, is being able to not just read those words, but meditating on those words in terms of us being able to overcome the oppression, that society is putting out there in the macro. But more importantly, that's the whole purpose of the oppressor, is to keep us, oppressed, and not to have our freedom to retrain the brain, or to look at it in the true sense of what we know, that we can live in this world, but we don't have to be conformed to it, to the way that we look at it in the natural. So I think spiritual meditation, I think being aware of who we are, as what has been said before, I think is so pertinent at this particular point in time, because there was a study about learned hopelessness, how people can become hopeless based on what they perceive, what they see, what concepts that are put in one's mind. And so I think that we're right on point with this conversation with regards to what we're talking about. So I really appreciate the conversation, and hopefully, as we continue to spiritually evolve, I think when we truly know ourselves, as Nick was saying, this is where we were talking about, the chakras, or talking about principles, or talking about, the laws, not so much in terms of society, but the law of the Lord, the law of Elohim, you know what I mean, is what's so important. Thank you for letting me share my thoughts. I'm done.
Thank you, George. And as you talked, it just sparked something else in me. In Corinthians, I think it's 1 Corinthians 13:12. It talks about, well, now we see through a glass darkly. When you talked about hopelessness and learning hopelessness, that's the seeing through the glass dark. That's the seeing through a glass darkly. We don't. It misaligns what reality really is like. But Paul implies that when we go to heaven, we will know fully and not in part. But this is not going to heaven. The heaven is now understanding who you are. And when we understand who we are right now, we can see through that glass. We can see through that glass, and it doesn't have to be the hopelessness that we've talked about. It can be clear, and we can know, not in part, but we can know on a fuller scale what reality is. And the reality that we are seeing through this glass darkly is this physical reality that we are locked into if we allow ourselves to be. It just reminded me of that, and reminded me that no, we don't have to wait till the sweet by and by to see fully, and to see what reality really is like, to see spiritual reality. Thank you. Other comments, other thoughts?
Let someone else want to speak now. I have something to a question or a comment. Because when George spoke, he sparked something when he mentioned the word freedom. No one is free. Everyone is in bondage in the whole world. because freedom doesn't come until the Babylonian is free. Everyone in this world is in bondage to materialism, Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Hinduism, some ism. Freedom only comes when the progenitor of everyone who lives on this earth is free. And that freedom of which I speak is a freedom of mindset. And that freedom of mindset comes when the God of this world dies. And we see that death taking place right now. And the God of the world that dies is the dominant monetary system that governs the earth. And the idea of hopelessness, for the first time in the history of this country, white women feel hopeless. They have never felt hopeless because they have always been guided by whatever that white man tells them. They go embrace it no matter what. They will lie to you and tell you how much they support you until they get their marching orders. However, since the lady in Minnesota was murdered, Miss Good, the whole mindset of that white woman is beginning to shift. Because for the first time, she is experiencing something that she has never had to experience before. And that is not only hopelessness, but understanding that she is nothing but property to that white man, the Neanderthal. And she's seeing that those who are in charge cares absolutely nothing about her any more than they do about anyone else. I believe that the Creator allowed all of this to take place. The smile on her face, the words that she spoke. I'm not angry with you. And still be shot at least 4 times. That hopelessness has never been in the white community, ever, until now. So here we are. We are seeing who we are, embracing who we are, and opening up a mindset. Opening up a flow of energy to open the eyes of people who've always lived in a world of blindness. So what we are in the process of experiencing is a brutal response to those who are protesting ICE. That brutal response is getting even worse. For the first time, the excuse of instituting martial law has been is threatening white people. There has never been the anger in the street by white people since segregation, fighting integration. That's the last time that you've seen this many white people in the street fighting against something that the government is perpetuating. Never has martial law been instated because of what white people are doing since Eisenhower instituted martial law when he sent the 101st Airborne to guard those students who were integrated in school. So we are in an era of change. And I want you to note something, if you will. Here we are. We've spoken concerning depression and suicide and understanding what that looks like. And we are being prepared for what is to come. Have you not noticed that we have been goaded to be in the streets and we didn't come? So now the shift is to the majority people who are protesting ICE are white women. The shift is there for martial law as opposed to focusing on us. Why is that so? Why did that happen the way it happened? Because the children of the sun, those who were born from the womb of a Kabbalah, have taken the initiative to throw off the yokes that have been on us for the last 500 to 700 years. Throw those yokes off and embrace the reality of who we are without shame, without caring who challenges us. The idea of those who are still under the bondages of church doesn't bother me. And the reason it doesn't is because it does not take the eye of all descendants of a Kabbalah to open in order for freedom to ring. Just a handful. Deliverance. The number of deliverance is 13. The 12 disciples and Yeshua. This number of 13 does not represent 13 people. It represents the energy that it takes to bring deliverance to humanity. And in spite of all of what we see with our eyes, the brutality of it and the anguish that we experience in our hearts, in spite of all of that, what you are seeing with your eyes, what you are experiencing is deliverance. There is no deliverance without shackles falling away. The weeks and months to come are going to be very, very harsh. The Creator is saying to us, yes, some of you will go into a state of depression because you don't see a way out. But you don't have to stay there. And you don't have to desire to leave this earth in order to be free. Just remind yourself or be mindful of who you are. When you feel yourself going into a state of depression, if you cannot meditate and pull yourself through it, call someone, talk to someone. We are being prepared now to deal with what is to come. I do not believe that there's going to be a wholesale killing of the African. I do not believe that at all. It's not going to happen because we're not going to be their guinea pigs or their excuses anymore. Even now, while the world is struggling, while people in America are struggling, the struggle has not really put brakes on the African. The struggle is being directed towards Caucasians for the most part. And with that happening, with them experiencing what we have experienced, that's a message to us that we have taken the energy from the oppressors in this country. Well, let me say it this way, worldwide. We have taken the energy. And if we had not done that, their control of that energy would have drawn us into the streets as it has in the past. But that has not happened. And if you notice, everyone, the Hispanics, the Palestinians, the Asians, the Somalis, everyone who has denigrated those of us who of African descent is catching hell right now from the government that they so tightly embraced and so deeply trusted. Why is that happening? Lessons has to be learned in order for you to understand never again. We can say never again with our mouths all day long, but never again does not come into effect until we truly embrace who we are. And it does not take everyone to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. If there are no other specific questions, I think I'm done with what I wanted to talk about today.
I thank you for that. If someone is getting ready to speak, go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
Barbara,
No,
if I may, and Pastor, you mentioned in reference to the 12 disciples and Yeshua, and you talked about the number 13. Spiritually, it talks about, 1 plus 3 is 4. And we know that 4 is the number of creation, but the 4 spiritually talks about the number that connects the mind, body, and spirit with the physical world, earth consciousness of structure and organization. The 4 symbolizes the safety and security of home. I emphasize home, the need for stability and strength on a solid foundation of values and beliefs. And I know that we have put out in the macro about everything coming to the surface and that awareness. But it says that, again, the spiritual nature of the number 4 calls in the need for having or creating a sacred place, a sanctuary in your home, a place to meditate and to build your innermost foundation of strength and being. So knowing that we are Elohim, knowing that we have the opportunity to be in that sacred place at home, to meditate, to pray, to be aware of the Spirit's leading. I think that it's the divine timing that when you speak about 13 and the significance of that, I just wanted to share the spiritual meaning of 13. I'm done.
Thank you, George. What you just said and all of what you said is this. Deliverance is about creating a new environment for humanity to live in. The hidden understanding of 13. So, but there is something else, but I want Audrey to go ahead first. Audrey, you are.
Sorry, it was not switching. 2 things. Richard and I were talking about what we've been discussing, and I'm wondering, What about, like when the Buddhist monks will set themselves on fire? And to me, that is not suicide, but I just wondered what everyone else's take on that is. And my other question is, um, these monks that have been walking for peace.
Mm-hmm.
I think they were in Colombia the other day.
Mm-hmm. They were.
What do you think is the significance of that? So 2 questions.
Start with the monks. The monks are a symbol of what's in the macro, a desire for peace. And I believe that. No, I don't believe it anymore. I know it. And the reason I know it and hold to it so deeply is because the ones who are railing against those monks and saying that they will lead you to hell is the evangelical church. Right now, they have been heckled by the church and said nothing back. So anything that Christianity, Islam, or Judaism is against is usually what the Creator has inspired others to do. It's like anything that this government offers you, there's a catch to it. So, in dealing with the monks, I do believe it is a response to the desires that we have put in the macro. Now, as far as, what was the other one, Audrey?
Self-immolation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do not believe it's suicide. It is not. It's sacrifice. It's a higher form of sacrifice. They're not killing themselves. Not burning themselves, rather, because they are depressed with this material world. They are burning themselves as a message to humanity of how dire things are for mankind. So no, I see it as an honorable thing. But as much as I love my people, that is one of the honorable things I couldn't do that. Burn myself. The thought of that is unsettling. Yet I do understand why it is being done. Does that help, Audrey? Or does that resonate?
Yeah, I mean, it does. I mean, I don't think it's suicide. I think it is a greater sacrifice for in terms of humanity. So yeah, I wouldn't say that is suicide at all.
Now, what is that
It
scripture
is kind of an honorable thing to do.
that which talks about the greater love being the love of one who would sacrifice his life for his friends or something like that? Something in that regard. That's how I see that. There is
Can I ask a question about that first? Is there a certain ritual that goes with it, or is there a prayer before they light themselves, or what usually accompanies that action?
I don't know. I remember seeing the one who did it in Vietnam. But and when the monk in Vietnam did it, he doused himself with a flammable material and just lit himself on fire. But everyone knew that it was because of what the U.S. was doing in Vietnam to the people in Vietnam. Now, as far as a ritual prior to that, I'm not aware of it. Is it anyone?
I'm not totally aware of it, but I know
Was there what?
the not really a ritual, but a lifestyle of practicing meditation. That's their preparation.
Yeah.
I would hope, because the purposes of that would not be to suffer, but perhaps depending on the nature of the ritual, that enduring the suffering might be part of it.
Thank you, guys. Ron, that resonate?
Yes, sir.
I want to leave us with something. Therefore, I want to ask if there are any questions or comments. Because when I say what I need to say, I want to leave you with it.
Reb and the group, I would like to say something before you speak, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Ms. Barber, I think you're doing a wonderful job. And early on in your narrative, you brought into play depression, oppression, and another young lady brought in suppression. And just want to advise the group of the depression arena. Make a conscious effort not to use your intimacy with a group to alienate someone that's just not getting in the group. Because when that is done, there's an invisible line of demarcation that takes place where you can alienate someone. Meaning, when I first met Monique at Walford College.
George, you got a lot of wind noise. You have a lot of wind noise.
Between these two trailers. That we don't use our intimacy with a group to alienate someone. Meaning, my bonus niece that married into my family, when she first met me, she called me JoJo. And that's a pretty sacred name with my nieces, my sister's children. You just can't call me JoJo. Yet when she called me that, I had to, you can call me JoJo. In some cases, when we go out to eat and we're fellowshipping with other people and there's a person that's there, we can talk about a college experience. Well, if that person ain't been to college, we politely remove them. And some people do this by design. Some people do it and they're not aware of it. Yet you can alienate that person. You can politely remove them. So in our intimacy with the group, if there's someone that's there and they're not familiar with the terminology of femininity and feminine energy, make sure the conversation is more universal, because that can cause depression. And I'll say in conclusion, when I first got with Monique's group, that Walford College group, it was kind of hard to interact with them because they only talked about the experience of Walford College. However, the spouses of the Walford College graduates, I found more comfort with them because the conversations I could participate in. So in this thing of depression, make sure we're not politely removing someone that is not familiar with the intimacy of the group. The oppression part, if in that oppression part, you can know some truth, yet your paycheck will dictate to you whether you can speak upon that truth. So that's all I had to say, but I think you're doing a wonderful job, Ms. Barber. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, George. And my intent was not to overlook anyone, and my expectation, not only in this session but any future session, is that if I am saying something that does do that, my expectation is that the individual would just simply let me know so that I can deal with it, because my intent is not one to delete anyone from any discussion. Thanks.
And Barbara, I want to extend that same thing, because none of us who teach or ask questions or make comments have any desire whatsoever to overlook anyone. Everyone has the opportunity to raise questions, and we do our best to identify what we're talking about every time we speak of it. So, again, thank you guys for everything, your presence, your questions, your comments, your energy especially. Even when you're not speaking, your energy is present. And it is utilized by those of us who seek to create an environment that was intended from the beginning. So, Ron?
Did you have something you more that you wanted to?
Yeah, I want to make sure that, everyone was finished. I want to leave anyone out. I want to speak to something, if I may. Deeply, I sense a profound need to do something that is totally be out of the ordinary for me anyway. And that is, I'm going to ask you guys, if you would, close your eyes, do whatever it is that helps you to focus. And then I would love for you to focus on my voice, the words, etc. It is to the ancestors of the politics that has guided us. It is to the ancestors who were murdered because of their skin. It is to the ancestors who has guided us even before they became ancestors, that I am guided to offer the spiritual libation. The waters in our bodies is the water that we pour out for libation in honor of and in reverence of those who have preceded us in this journey, and speaking on behalf of our people, pouring out libations of self, sacrificing self for the purpose of understanding more deeply who we are. I seek, we desire to release those who, over the time, have not been elevated because of shadow work that they refused to do in this earth that they were aware of. As we pour out these libations of crystallized water. We say to those who have gone before us and those who are with us to this day, it is incumbent upon us to bring freedom, to bring balance to this earth. Because of that obligation, we say to you, guide us in an even stronger way than you have been. Show us the most controversial things that we must see in order to bring humanity to the space where we are obligated to bring them. Thank you for all you've done. Now, as we separate physically, as we separate from the electronics of this world or the electronics that's bringing us together, we remain one in our vision, in our desires, in our understanding of who we are. And with that, we pour out the final libation from our bodies to you. Ashe.
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 Thank you. Tomorrow at 6 o'clock. But before tomorrow at 6.
11.
What we've said today. And in doing so, hold tightly to who you are. I'm done.
Pastor, you said tomorrow at 6, but tomorrow at 11. Right?
At 11. I'm sorry, I'm thinking today's Sunday. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that correction.
Thank you.
Have a great day, y'all. Thank you.
Have a good day,
Thank you.
everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you.